Okay, well, welcome back to the verdict. Live, well, not live pictures, but pictures that are being sent in to us to give us an idea and a feel of activities that are happening today, knowing that today was election day.
Indeed.
Indeed. And we have all that from the north, south, east, and the west right here on Channels Television, your news leader.
Indeed. We're going everywhere. We're taking from everywhere. We're having information, news, and happenings. And as I speak right now, we've got one.
Yes, all the way from Katsina State, we have Ibrahim Adra, just to give us a situation report this evening. Ibrahim.
Yes, Studio, we're here at Gobaro Ward, where there are 4 polling units because of the size of voters that have been registered here. And we're here now. Everything seemed to have ended, but it's still very busy as we have party agents, we have security agents, and some of the voters still loitering around. But I have the collation officer here, Abubakar Usman, who will tell us exactly what is happening here. Thank you for speaking with Channels Television.
My name is Abubakar Usman. I'm the collation here in the Gobara Ward.
Okay. Yes. Tell me, how did the voting process went in this center today?
I think we have no problem with any election this year. But the issue is that we are yet to start receiving or collecting the materials. But it's now they are coming from their polling units. The POs and the APOs, they are submitting their materials to the SPOs. So that is the issue now.
Yes, the materials, from how many polling units are you expecting these materials to come from?
It is from the 16 polling units. And here, like this place, we have 4 voting points. But I can't tell you the remaining places, either we have the voting point or not. Okay. That is what I know.
So take me through the process. How does it work? If they come in with the results, what are you supposed to be doing here as a collation officer?
We are the one that are going to compile the results and from then to carry the result to the INEC office for presentation.
That is the INEC headquarters?
That is the INEC headquarters, yes. Yes.
And well, it's well past 5 now. That process has not started. How long do you think that will take if they start bringing them in? Is it a process that will take some time?
Honestly, I can't say so because it depends on the working. Maybe if there is no problem, we can finish it within a short period of time. But maybe we can even have light issues or challenges. But we don't hope this thing to be happening.
Well, assuming you have those challenges, is it likely that you might spend the night doing that job?
In case they give us this thing, the light, like the gen, even the gen is not one. They give us another one in case of failing.
So you intend to use that?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, here at the center, we also have those who observed the process right from when it started in the morning up to where we are at the moment. I like, madam, please tell me your name.
I'm Mrs. Agatha Inyam.
Okay, and you've been observing this process here at Gobaro Ward. What did you see?
The process has been good. It was peaceful.
Well, how about the actual voting process? I mean, beginning from the accreditation up to the voting point. What did you see in the morning?
It was, like I said, it was peaceful. There was accreditation around 8:16 when it started at this very polling unit. But the only hitch that we encountered, one of the polling units, card reader, was a little bit slow. But after some time, it picks up and it continues. That delays the voting till up to 2:47. Yes, but the process was okay.
Well, they are about to start collation now. They are expecting results from the polling units so they can begin to collate. Are you going to be here to observe that process as well?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you. Well, so that's the situation here at Gobaro Ward. The collation will continue up to when they will finish. Nicely, he said they have generating sets to be able to light up this place in case it gets dark. That's the situation here from Gobaro, right in the heart of Katsina. Back to you, studio.
Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. Situation there he did some hours ago. That was the update at that time. Just bringing it to you right now. And now let's give you a bit of a situation update. And for that, we go to Gloria Umezuoke. She's in the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, and she's going to give us an update. Gloria?
Well, thank you very much. We're still live at the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room here, and we have 8,800 observers from the Situation Room spread across the 36 states of the Federation, bringing minute-by-minute reports about what's happening right now. Voting is still continuing in some parts of the country, but we have fresh updates for you right now. Now listen to this. In Zamfara State, Marado local government area, Gora Ward, polling unit 010. We understand voting is being done without accreditation, something INEC might need to look into. We also have lack of result sheets in many polling units in Anambra State. We also got fresh reports of 2 men dead by army personnel, perhaps killed by army personnel in Sapele, Delta State. Voting is still going on in some parts of Kaura local government in Zamfara State, of course in other parts as well. And this is another interesting one. Vote buying with 2,000 naira by party agents and a soldier taken to a hospital in an emergency situation following injuries inflicted on him by a voter in polling unit 002. Barakin Girikin, well, the spelling, the pronunciation I might not get it right, so Barakin Girikin Gary Ward, Galadima local government in Kebbi State. So these are fresh updates we have in addition to vote buying, incidences of violence and other incidences we reported earlier in the day. And so I have with me to discuss on this very briefly Mr. Pt.2, spokesman for Reclaim Niger and a member of the Situation Room. He'll be telling us more about this because really, thank you for joining us, by the way. So if you could just step forward a bit. Thank you. You've been listening to all of these updates, and these ones are fresh, coming from the field. What do you make of this?
Well, obviously, Nigerians are looking at this election with some mixed results, you know, more or less. Things started off well, we must say, in some areas, while in some other areas we had the usual, you know, hiccups. We were also hoping that would have gone beyond, you know, all of these things. But again, this is Nigeria, but again, perhaps that lends credence to what the INEC chairman said the very day that the election was postponed, I think last week Saturday. During his press briefing, he said something that I think a lot of Nigerians did not seem to notice, and he said that we needed to have a national a discussion on the issue of elections in this country. Now, that was fundamental because it is very, very clear that, yes, INEC is the most important institution when it comes to, you know, formation of governments in this country. But INEC is not the only institution. There are so many other, you know, issues surrounding it. So when he made that statement, I think he was cognizant of the fact that, you know, having, you know, a perfect, near perfect election is even beyond him because of the structural defects, you know, when it comes to the whole issue of election in this country. So what we are seeing, some of the issues you just talked about, the issue of, voting without proper accreditation, you know, in a few places is clearly a manifestation or are clearly manifestations of some of the contradictions, you know, of election running in this country. And it is unfortunate. And then, of course, the issue of violence. Yes, we have had, like I said, some hiccups in some places in this country. From Lagos to Anambra to Zamfara to Kano to even Abuja here. We've seen all of these things. We were on the field. You know, but the reality again is that one of the major components of this election, having a successful election, a free and fair election, security. And we've also had assurances before now from high up in the police, you know, hierarchy. And somehow look at the kind of violence, for instance. See,
that's really is the issue, because we had heightened security and yet we have up to 16 people dead.
Yeah, I mean, and it's growing. I mean, by the minute, especially in the past 2 weeks. You know, it's a very horrible situation, and you cannot have a proper election you know, in an atmosphere and environment devoid of proper security. In some instances, you had like 1 or 2 trade policemen in a particular place, and then when we had these issues of thuggery, you know, the police were quite incapable of doing anything about it, and we were told that yes, that they were not going to, those that would be at the polling units will not be armed, which is okay, but that you have, you know, other people, other policemen ready to respond whenever there is an emergency, you know, with sufficient weapons to protect lives and then safeguard electoral materials. Obviously, perhaps in some places it worked in some places, but in some other places it did not exactly work. But I'm also worried. Let me just say this thing briefly.
Very quickly.
It would appear that the theater of conflict or crisis within, you know, our electoral system has expanded from what it was even in 2015 to today. Now we're having so many disturbances in Lagos. We have in Rivers. Traditionally, you could say yes, Rivers and Bayelsa have been volatile spots even before now. But it has spread to some other places, other parts of the country where we are not having this situation. And this is what is worrisome about this current process.
Well, I must thank you very much, Mr. Pt.2, the spokesman for Reclaim Niger and a member of the Situation Room. I know voting is still ongoing. We have more updates coming up as soon as we gather them. Thank you, and back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Gloria, for that update. Now, one of the things I take away immediately from that briefing from Gloria and her guest there, Pt.2, is that the theater of conflict seems to be spread in the areas from where we're getting reports of violent interventions in the electoral process is spreading.
It's no longer isolated.
They're not really isolated as they might have appeared to be earlier in the day, and definitely not from what was witnessed in 2015. But now I'm told that I can at last introduce our guest in Abuja, Mr. Ofo Adibe, Jide Ofo Adibe. I hope I have that correctly. Thank you so much for your patience and for joining us from our Abuja studios. Let me throw this question to you. I'm sure you've been following all the reports we've had since you joined us. Oh, okay. My apologies. The initial person we had was not the person. The person we're having right now is Mr. Rotimi Oyekomi, the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of INEC, who is in our Abuja studios. My apologies, Rotimi. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. But the question remains the same. You've been watching all the reports we've been having of incidents, Lapai in Niger State, Bonema in Rivers State, Owerri in Imo, the other parts of Rivers, the situation in Kano, and a number of other places. First, what's the general impression of the Commission, what has transpired today?
Thank you very much, Ladi. First of all, I would like to thank all Nigerians for coming out in large numbers to exercise their franchise despite the disappointment of last week. It shows that this country has wonderful people. We are very resilient, and we are very, very hopeful and positive about the future of our country. And it also shows that Nigerians want to take charge of their destiny. So we are very happy about that. And the reports we are receiving is a mixed bag, as your reports have shown. In some areas, the situation was quite impressive, quite good. People came out, some polling units opened in good time. It didn't quite turn out the way the Commission had planned. Our initial plan was that by 8 a.m., all the 119,973 polling units and over 50,000 voting points will be open. But while this happened in some areas, it didn't quite work out in other areas. But as the hours rolled by, things improved tremendously from 8 to 9 to 10 to 11. And I think that by 2 p.m., all the polling units had opened substantially, except in a few other areas where they were having issues. Yes, it's a sad development, really, when we hear reports of violence being meted out to innocent voters and our officials on election day. The incident that happened in Lagos, we got reports of those areas in Lagos where the attack took place. We got the report in Rivers, and it's really very unfortunate that some people could brazenly engage in such violence. And honestly, I think that there should be consequences. I think that going forward after the incident, those who participated in this shameful act should be brought to book, and those who witnessed what happened should tell us and tell the authorities the identity of those who participated. There should be consequences for such behavior, really.
Mr. Yokomi, in areas where we heard from the National INEC Commissioner that voting did not happen, like Bonny, for example, what went wrong? Because from the briefings that we've been following day after day, the 3 p.m. briefings, we understood that not only had materials been deployed, humans had been deployed, meaning staff. But then you find out in some places INEC staff didn't turn up, or they turned up very late. What really happened? You might not have the full report, but it's surprising to a lot of people that we were hearing this now.
Well, like I said, there were a few issues with some locations, but Rivers turned out to be a little bit more difficult. I understand that there were some form of violence unleashed on our people, and some of our staff were abducted, and we gathered that this affected a lot of things, and the voting could not take place as envisaged. And what will then happen is that if you disallow people from voting, we'll go back and conduct the election at some other time. Yes, we had some logistical issues, but it's not because of that that voting did not take place in those areas that you talked about. It's due to violence.
Is it violence? These are unconfirmed reports, staying with the Bonny story, that would cause that your officials are not allowed out of the INEC premises? Was that the situation there in Bonny, for instance?
Well, I am yet to be fully briefed about what happened in Bonny, but the initial information we got was that where we could not deploy, it was as a result of being prevented intentionally. And of course, you cannot conduct election where the atmosphere is not okay for you to do so. Because if you then go ahead, you risk being killed or being injured, and there is no way INEC will conduct election when we know in full terms that out there is dangerous, both for the innocent voters and our own officials.
Okay, what happened with the ink, the stamp? Because I remember when we had you on the show either yesterday or so, you had talked about the fact that whatever date was on the ballot paper, as long as it was stamped with the date and all that, it's valid. But then we heard reports of areas where there was no stamp, or the officials had to be reminded that the stamp needed to be there. I don't think that was what you envisaged. Is it that the training did not happen well, or there was a shortage of materials?
Well, I haven't heard of any situation where we didn't have stamps to be applied on the back of the ballot paper, because that's very compulsory. I haven't really heard. It would be unfortunate if indeed in some areas stamps were not provided.
Mr. Yokomi, if I may come in here, it would be strange to say you haven't heard, because as close to where we are here, they didn't have a stamp pod.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't hear about that, I'm sorry. But that would be unfortunate. It's because that's essentially part of what should be available. And we will really need to look into that. It's just that I didn't have the information. I didn't hear that such things were not made available. The information I had was that in some areas, polling units could not open in good time, or where, of course, violence prevented our officials from going out to perform their duties.
Let me ask you this, though. We had heard from Mr. Okoye. I don't know if you will confirm that as we are asking now. In many of the places where the elections did not take place today, or they had to start late and so on, and probably didn't finish today, tomorrow, are you expecting that those voters should come back to those polling units affected to conclude the process or to start it? For example, say Bonny Island that we mentioned, where it didn't take place today, and you know about that. What's going to happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or are they to wait for further instructions?
Well, I believe that the resident electoral commissioner in the respective places will make an announcement according to the peculiar circumstances that he has found himself. If, of course, it's something that he could get on with to mobilize and conduct the election the second day, he will do that. Of course, the election has to be conducted anyway, but the circumstances surrounding his own environment will determine the next move. So I don't want to preempt what the rep will do, but of course, election must take place.
All right, please don't go away, Mr. Ikomi. Please stay with us. We'll take a short break, and then we'll be back to wrap up this segment.